Come on election news, election results a day after you went to the polls and been voting for the last week and a half or so. We'll have more results coming up for you in just a few minutes. Right now it's 65 and partly sunny in the city. Partly sunny today and another warm one, perhaps warmer than yesterday, up to 77 in the city. It'll be gusty as well. And then tomorrow, clouds give way to sunshine, a high once again in the mid-70s and breezy. It's 6:52.
Support for WNYC comes from IBM. With IBM Watson X, businesses can build a custom AI assistant that can leverage their trusted data and be trained on their workflows. It can be tuned to do just what businesses need. More information at ibm.com/productivity. Netflix presenting Emilia Perez. Carla Sofia Gascon, Zoe Saldana, and Selena Gomez star in director Jacques Audiard's latest film following three women each pursuing their own freedom. Now playing in select theaters on Netflix November 13th.
Big money is shifting on financial markets now with the clarity that Donald Trump is America's next president.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses with customizable coverage options as unique as your business. More at progressivecommercial.com.
I'm David Brancaccio. A great pool of uncertainty in financial markets has been drained now that we know who will be the next president of the United States, and that a protracted fight over the results will not define the rest of the year. Starting with the stock market, Dow futures are up more than 1,200 points, 2.8%. S&P futures are up 2%. NASDAQ futures are up 1.5%. Watching this is Ben Kumar, head of equity strategy at Seven Investment Management. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
The shorthand for this is called the Trump trade. Take me through the logic of some of this, starting with stocks. What general categories are they buying here, and what's the strategy?
U.S. stocks is basically the strategy. The Dow and the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. One of the other interesting ones to look at is the Russell 2000, which are smaller U.S. companies. And that, as when I last checked, was up 5 to 6%. There is a real feeling that it means domestic U.S. strength is back on the cards, which aligns at least with some of the things Donald Trump has been saying. And it seems that markets are prepared, at least today, to believe it.
Now, some of these U.S.-based companies are, of course, multinational corporations, and some will argue that the tariffs the next president is promising will add friction to the economy, contribute to inflation, clog the arteries of world trade. That would presumably hurt profits in some of these companies that people are buying this morning.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. There's a version of Tesla shares that's traded in Frankfurt in Germany that's up 15 or 16%. But, if tariffs start going in and Chinese retaliation comes through, Tesla's not guaranteed to keep doing better. So you're absolutely right. But I think this morning, what we're seeing before any of the detail comes out is just a general wave of optimism. And actually, I think a wave of relief that this isn't going to drag on for another month or 2 months. We are done now and can start looking to the future and see what's next for a US economy that feels, if you listen to Donald Trump, like it's ready to get growing again.
Yeah, there's this VIX index we have here out of Chicago, the so-called fear index of stock market volatility, way down this morning, bolstering your point there. Now, the bond market down sharply, pushing the 10-year interest rate up sharply this morning. What's the logic there?
Well, I mean, some of the stuff that has been said, if you look at the actual manifestos and things, is there will be more borrowing under a Trump presidency than there would under a Kamala Harris presidency, to the tune of nearly $4 trillion more. But if you're going to borrow and doing that manages to get growth going, actually that's not too bad a shape of things. However, that growth will be 2, 3, 4 years in the future. So as of today, bond markets, a little bit more sensible, are just going, they're going to be borrowing more, so we probably want to charge them a little bit more.
Ben Kumar, head of equity strategy at Seven Investment Management. He's in the thick of the trading day, being based in London. Ben, thank you.
Thank you.
Control of the House of Representatives is still being figured out, but it does look like Republicans will run the Senate. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has more on how that would shape the economic agenda.
The Senate is in charge of approving an incoming president's cabinet members, including top economic posts like Commerce and Treasury Secretary. That process is a lot smoother if the president's party controls the Senate. But former President Trump has lots of economic plans that would require approval from both houses of Congress. Take taxes. Many of his 2017 tax cuts are set to expire at the end of next year, and Trump has new tax proposals, including exempting tips, Social Security, and overtime pay from income taxes, and lowering the corporate tax rate for companies making products in the U.S. Trump also wants to eliminate the green energy subsidies in the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
I mentioned stocks up sharply. The dollar is up sharply. A euro costs just $1.07 now. Mexico's peso is down 3.2% to the dollar. The new Trump administration wants to be cryptocurrency friendly, and Bitcoin is up 8% at the moment.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Rubrik, a cybersecurity company focused on securing the world's data. When cyber attacks put businesses, reputations, and careers at risk, Rubrik provides the power to bounce back fast and become cyber resilient. Rubrik.com. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at Schwab.com.
Now back to the so-called Trump trade in the bond market, with the 10-year and 30-year bonds down sharply this morning, pushing up interest rates, with the 10-year now at 4.47%, the highest since early June. This is partly a bet that borrowing will be higher in this new presidency, as we said. Yet there was a promise billionaire Elon Musk could help cut government spending by $2 trillion with a T, possibly with an assist from investor John Paulson, who is reportedly among contenders to be the next U.S. Treasury Secretary. Marketplace's Nova Safo is here with more.
Yeah, David. And first of all, let's remember that when it comes to fiscal policy, the next White House will need Congress to go along. But still, we do know quite a bit about what Elon Musk and John Paulson want to do. And that's because, quite frankly, they've been pretty public about it. Musk has said he wants to head a commission to cut federal government spending. And yes, the number was at least $2 trillion a year. I should point out that the current discretionary spending in the federal budget is less than $2 trillion a year, so not clear how the math would work out there. Now, John Paulson gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal days before the election saying he would work with Musk to cut spending. He specifically pointed to cutting green energy subsidies in the Inflation Reduction Act. The caveat there is that those are pretty popular, including in Republican districts where funding is coming in. So, again, not certain that Congress would go along there, David.
What more do we know about John Paulson, not to be confused with former Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson?
Yeah, he's a very different guy, former hedge fund manager. His claim to fame is that he correctly predicted trouble in subprime mortgages in 2007 and made a lot of money betting against them. The Wall Street Journal says he's quite close to Trump, and in his interview with the paper, he said he would prioritize extending parts of the 2017 tax cuts, which are set to expire. That could cost about $3 trillion over a decade, and which is why, as you mentioned, bond markets are responding this morning with a sell-off. They're anticipating more government debt to come, not less government debt, David.
All right, Marketplace's Nova Safo, thank you very much for this. Again, stocks are up sharply with the uncertainty removed from the presidential contest. Dow futures are still up more than 1,200 points. That's an increase of 2.9%. I'm David Brancaccio, and we're from APM, American Public Media.